Okay, so for this problem, we're asked to use mesh analysis, and we're going to be looking for IX. All right, so first I'm going to define my meshes. I will say this is I1, this is I2, and this is I3. Okay, and the thing we want to immediately notice is that I3 is the only current in this branch. Okay, so we know that I3 is going to equal IX, which of course equals 4V1. Okay, so now I'm going to do KVL for I1 mesh and I2 mesh. Okay, so KVL is going to be minus 10 plus 1 times I1 minus I3 plus 2 times I1 minus I2 equals 0. Okay, so I can combine my terms. 3I1 minus 2I2 minus I3 equals 10. And of course we know I3 here, so 3I1 minus 2I2 minus 4V1 equals 10. Okay, now we'll do for the other mesh. And we'll say we have 1I2 minus I3 plus 3I2 plus 2I2 minus I1 equals 0. Again, you can combine your like terms. So we have minus 2I1 plus 6I2 minus I3 is going to be 0. And of course we know that I3 is 4V1. Okay, so now we can go back and look at 4V1, and we know here that V1 is going to be 2I1 minus I2. Okay, and now we can substitute that in for each of our equations. So now we can rewrite our equations. The first one was 3I1 minus 2I2 minus I3 equals 10. And we can rewrite that as 3I1 minus 2I2 minus 4V1 equals 10. And remember, we said that V1 is going to be 2 times I1 minus I2. Okay, and so if we rewrite again using substitution, we have 3I1 minus 2I2 minus 8I1 minus I2 equals 10. And we combine our like terms, and we have minus 5I1 plus 6I2 equals 10. For our second mesh equation, we had minus 2I1 plus 6I2 minus I3 equals 0. Again, we can substitute for I3. To equal 4V1. And again, we can substitute V1. And we get minus 2I1 plus 6I2 minus 8I1 minus I2 equals 0. All right, now we want to combine our like terms. So we get negative 10I1 plus 14I2 equals 0. So now I have two equations and I have two unknowns. I can solve those equations and end up with I1 equals negative 14 amps and I2 equals negative 10 amps. Now we were asked to find what Ix is, and we know that Ix equals 4v1, which equals 4 times 2 times I1 minus I2. We can substitute in what we know, negative 14 for I1 and negative 10 for I2. And we end up with negative 32 amps for Ix.